to the Whole Health Louisiana Lunch and Learn webinar series. We're excited. This is our new year, and so we got a new line of speakers and of topics. So this is going to be our 5th Lunch and Learn series as part of the Whole Health Louisiana Lunch and Learn series. WHL is a collaborative effort led by the Louisiana Department of Health as the public sector anchor and funder for the Whole Health Louisiana initiative. I am Liz Skilton. I'm with the Blanco Center and head of the WHL implementation team, and we're very excited that you joined us today as part of the series. The Blanco Center, which is where I am at, leads the plan's implementation and evaluation. If you're unfamiliar with what Whole Health Louisiana is, Whole Health Louisiana is the state's cross-sector initiative intended to systematically address, mitigate, and prevent childhood adversity within our systems of care and support. WHL has 4 priority areas and goals: collaboration, awareness, workforce, and prevention and healing. With these priorities in mind, WHL's vision is to build a state where children, families, and community members across Louisiana are healthy and thriving, regardless of who they are or where they live. I'm going to turn things over to Quen Nguyen on our staff, who's going to be the moderator for today's session and introduce our speakers. And I just want to, again, thank everybody for joining us. We're getting things set up on our end, and we'll be delighted to introduce our speakers next. So Quen, please take it away.
Everyone, thanks, Liz. Like Liz said, I'm Quen Nguyen. I'm a research associate here at the Blanco Center and a coordinator for the Whole Health Louisiana project. I will be moderating this webinar and all the webinars to come, along with my colleagues here at the Blanco Center. So as a part of this initiative, we are holding a variety of different activities meant to raise awareness and deepen conversation about trauma-informed care practices. Our virtual Lunch and Learn series touches on the workforce priority area of the Whole Health Louisiana plan and features presentations from industry professionals and subject matter experts. We have a webinar planned for one Thursday of each month through June, and each webinar will touch on various topics related to the goals and objectives of Whole Health Louisiana. Our planned webinars are listed on the Eventbrite page that you all use to register for today's event if you're interested in learning more about our future Lunch and Learn webinars. In addition to our webinar series, we are also conducting in-person regional trainings across the state of Louisiana. Our next and last in-person training will be in Monroe next week on Tuesday. If you're interested in attending our in-person trainings, check out the links that we'll be putting in the chat. Like I said, this is our last in-person training, so we'll have more opportunities to attend these trainings to come, but as for in-person ones, our Monroe training is the last one so far. So before I introduce our speakers for today, I want to first mention our ASL interpreter for today is Lisa Gill. You should see them pinned to your screen to view the interpretation throughout the webinar. Okay, I'm now going to introduce our speakers for today. First, we have Ms. Kelli Todd, who earned a bachelor's in science and education from Louisiana State University, Shreveport. She is the executive director of Volunteers for Youth Justice and has been affiliated with the organization since 2004, when she was first sworn in as a COSTA advocate. She has served as the chair of the Louisiana Program Council and served on the board of directors for LouisianaChildren.org. She was named COSTA Director of the Year by the state of Louisiana in 2016, was a finalist for the Virginia K. Sheehy Most Influential Women Award in 2017, and was an honoree for the Athena Leadership Award in 2023, and the recipient of the Don E. Wydra Memorial Award in 2024. She is recognized in the community for her professional level of dedication to building stakeholder relationships and strengthening her commitment to running a nonprofit proficiently. Ms. Todd has actively served on boards, offered experiential support, and mentored other nonprofits. We also have Dr. Allisyn Swift, who received her bachelor's degree in psychology from York College and her master and doctorate degrees in school psychology from Tulane University. With over 20 years of experience working with children and families, Dr. Swift's fellowships include the National 0 to 3 Leaders of the 21st Century and the W.K. Kellogg Fellowships. Her research interests include the use of participatory action research to study the effects of race-based stress on child socialization, parenting practices, community development, and promoting wellness through school and community environments, as well as professional development to enhance the cultural, social, emotional, and wellness practices of school communities. As a practitioner, she centers a healing and trauma, developmentally appropriate, and culturally sensitive lens to working with children and families. Currently, she serves as an adjunct professor of psychology at Tulane University and the executive director of the Coalition for Compassionate Schools in New Orleans. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our amazing speakers to give their presentation.
Okay, we didn't draw straws to see who should go first. So Kelli, what would you like to do?
Oh, Allisyn, you can go first and we'll end.
Okay, all right, let me just get my slide deck up here. We're really excited to talk to you today. So just a couple things. We're a really small group, and so this could be more of a conversation as well, so that you're not just listening to me talk. So I know that we in day two, but of course, like if there's anything that you'd like more clarification of, I just want to be able to stay within my time limit so that Kelli has her time. But yeah, this could be a conversation as well. So I'm going to get my slide deck up, and if you see me looking like this, it's because I have two screens. It's not that I'm ignoring anyone. So, and hopefully I could still be able to see you all while I'm doing that. So let me just go ahead. Make sure that everything's up. Great. All right, can everyone see? I can't see what you see. So if you can let me know that you can see, thumbs up, or I see Kelli nodding. So hopefully that means yes. Okay, great. So yeah, today we are going to be talking a little bit about buy-in and trauma-informed for support and trauma-informed programs when it comes to leadership. Just for context, I work primarily with schools and school leaders. So this program is going to be kind of focused towards that more than just buy-in in general. But I do think that some of these strategies that I'm going to talk about are useful for everyone. So first, I just want to tell you a little bit about my organization. I put a little QR code there if you want to go ahead and pull up our website. It's really pretty. Our dissemination coordinator worked really hard on it, so I hope you like it. And you'll find more information about us there. So the Coalition for Compassionate Schools is a coalition of several different nonprofit and government entities that work with children and children-facing organizations. So these are some of our partners that are part of the coalition, and we are doing this work in schools with our Trauma-Informed Schools project, specifically with a generous award from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration. So these are our partners. Maybe you know some of them. And so this is us. So I say this is our C4 staff, and we call them our play cousins. They're staff members that are not necessarily on our staff because we do have some shared employees. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And there are folks that have been with us since we first started. So I like to call them our play cousins, much like you have play cousins that you grew up with that are not necessarily your family, but they knew you probably before you were born. So that's how these folks are. And so you're going to hear me talking about some of their great work throughout this workshop as well. So this is our vision: flourishing school systems that are rooted in community, healing, and human-centered approaches. And our mission is to build the capacity of schools, students, and parents to create transformative change in education through the adoption, implementation, and sustainment of trauma-informed and healing-centered practices. And we have several different programs that do that. I got really excited about our branding as C-Force. As you can see here, I'm a little bit of a fantasy nerd. And so when we talk about compassion, because we are the Coalition for Compassionate Schools, we try to lean into definitions of compassion that really think about compassion as action, as love in action. So compassion does not happen by sitting on the sidelines. Compassion happens actually when we are in partnership with our communities and with the people that our programs are to affect. And so you can see some of our guiding principles down here, our Jedi Knights philosophy of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, using the capacities of kindness, nourishment, intentionality, groundedness, honesty, thoughtfulness, and sustainability. So this is what we do. For over 8 years, we bring together collective expertise. I don't know if you know a lot about the New Orleans School District, but we are 100% charter school district. So there is not necessarily one entity that is holding services for schools. So we really are working together to help coordinate different systems alignment between different organizations that are school facing and that are doing supports in schools. We have a lot of organizations here that are doing really good work in schools, and we are really trying to figure out how we can align together to make life easier for our schools and our students and our parents. So we do implementation support, we do research and evaluation, and we do a lot of collaboration and coordination that I just mentioned. And one thing that we're really aiming to do is making sure that our model is sustainable. So when we work with schools, we want to make sure that we are also putting in place practices and policies that are going to be with them for the long run. Okay, so these are some schools that we've been working with. And this is our definition of trauma, and it's very, very important to our heart and soul. We define trauma as the harmful interruption of safety, agency, dignity, or belonging. And one of the reasons why we find that definition so important is because within that definition, we can also see some pathways to healing, not just coping, but actually healing from trauma. So we believe that trauma is embedded at multiple levels: individual, collective, systemic, and intergenerational or historical. And we also respect the complexity of trauma in that it can show up in a lot of ways. It could be acute, chronic, cumulative, and definitely complex. And it really should overwhelm our ability to cope with or integrate our experiences of different events. And so this is some of the guiding things that we always talk about. When we talk about trauma-informed schools, we use those 4 R's of realizing, recognizing, responding, and resisting traumatization. So a lot of our program is geared towards these different points and is organized in this way. So now, this is what you came for, strategies to enhance leadership buy-in. And so I kind of, when I was thinking about these things and actually having a conversation with Kelli really helped me think about how I wanted to organize this a little bit more. And so there's just 3 different ways that I'm going to talk about it, really thinking about who you are, who your organizations are, and who you are in the space, and bringing some self and social awareness to yourselves about that and how you might be perceived, thinking about what you do, what you are actually doing, what are some of the relational moves that you're actually doing, and practicing in space with partners, and what you bring. What are you bringing to organizations? What is it that your program is enhancing? What is your message? And Lissa, please tell me if I'm going too fast. We're good?
You're
Okay.
fine.
Okay, great. My mom is an interpreter, so I really respect that. So, okay. So who you are really does matter. We do work with schools. So of course we like to lean into social emotional learning. And one of my favorite social emotional learning components is social awareness. Within this context, it really does require the ability to really accurately assess the social climate and infer reactions. So when I'm talking about that in the context of buy-in, I'm really thinking about who is your organization and how do you think that people are going to react to you based on the history of your organization in your location and what people know about it, right? So some things that you need to consider is, what is the perception of your organization in the public? The Coalition for Compassionate Schools is a program of Tulane University. We are a big, big university in a very small city. We are also one of the largest employers of folks in this city. So when I'm coming saying that I'm the Coalition for Compassionate Schools and that I'm a program of Tulane University, I could be coming with a lot of complex history that people are going to be perceiving my organization through, right? And so what we think about when we're thinking about how we enter space is we're coming in with a lot of this complex history and complex feelings about who we are as an organization. And so just having that awareness is really important to think about. You might have to think about what kind of relational moves you might have to make. In what way is your organization going to move and have relationships with others? It really is important to consider the history of your organization and some things that may bring and may come up. Not to disregard it, but also just to lean in and to listen to what people's concerns or hopes may be, for working with your organization. Also think about what your relationship is to the sector. Who are you in the scope of trauma-informed things that are happening, especially within your community? What is your relationship with other people that are doing the same work? That carries a long way. One thing that I think about a lot, especially here in New Orleans, is that everything is very relationship based, right? So who you are really does matter. Your relationships really do matter. So making sure that you're attending to and nourishing those relationships. Also think about what your program's track record is. I am a new ED to this. I've been doing this for the past year. However, I've been in relationship with the coalition since its inception, and before that with some of the folks that are the founding members. And so I do know a lot about our track record, and I can bring that into this space, especially in spaces that might have a complex history with the organization as Tulane University, right? And then again, how does your messaging, what you're putting out there, really address the public perception and then also match your current intentions, what it is that you're actually bringing? And then how are you doing your current work in order to really increase confidence? When we talk about buy-in, we're thinking about how you are going to be perceived, how you are going to be taken, and how you are going to double down on building relationships. And we'll talk a little bit more about relationships and trust as we go through this, but really thinking about how everything that you're doing is increasing confidence, is building that trust in you, right? Also thinking about if you have local and trusted champions, folks that you've worked with either as an individual or as an entity that can really vouch for your work. And then how are you using your partnerships to be able to enter into other spaces that otherwise may not be as welcoming? And also too, are you prepared to be really guiding with consultation and coaching? Especially for trauma-informed care, it's not something that everybody instinctually knows what to do. Work environments are not necessarily built like that. Sometimes school environments, with all the pressures that they have, are not necessarily built to be trauma-informed. So how are we really, as my director of programs would say, how are we really making sure that the soil is fertile for the seeds that we want to plant? How are you providing consultation and coaching to people there that may really need that support? And then before you even enter, think about what the exit strategy is. Where are you leaving these organizations in order to make sure that the relationship is intact? And then how are you planning to maintain these relationships throughout? Because these folks that you're maintaining these relationships with are immediately can go back into being one of your local and trusted champions, right? So always thinking about how are you maintaining the relationships that you have. So again, who you are in the space matters. Having a little bit of social awareness about your organization really does matter. Okay, what you do really does matter. So think about how you really are partnering. I talked about trust before. You can only work at the speed of trust. You can only go as far with organizations as they are willing to open their doors for you. So being very aware of that. And so one of the ways that you actually build trust is to meet organizations exactly where they are. And by that, I mean to be adaptive. School buildings are making pivots and shifts all the time. How is your programming pivoting and shifting with them? Coming in with a program that has too many constraints in terms of implementation and not enough flexibility is not going to be a good way to really get buy-in from people, right? So people need to know that you're able to move and shift with them when shifts do occur, and that you are going to be coming back to them for feedback, and then also making sure that your programming is really meeting the needs of what the programs that actually, of what the school actually needs, and not just what your program wants to kind of lay on top of them, right? And so within that, give a lot of autonomy and choice, right? We have separate different modules, and we are giving schools lots of different choice and ways that we can present them. They can be presented in a variety of orders. They can be presented as coaching with certain grade levels in smaller groups. They can be big PDs. You know, we can figure out how we're going to get our content across. It's not one size fits all. We have to be giving them some kind of autonomy and choice as to where and when they can receive this content. Also, one thing that we are very conscious of is new program fatigue that schools get into. So they are having a lot of new and shiny things that come in all the time that is supposed to be the thing that helps the school change. And then it really does exhaust some of their resources as they have to pivot and shift to what the new shiny thing is. So the most way that you can really obtain buy-in is to know what the existing programming is before you go in. Get to learn what some of that programming is as you're building those initial relationships, and then blend your programming into their programming, right? And that means, again, with that autonomy and choice, even blending into their scheduling, right? Not offering new meetings, but when is the leadership team meeting going into those meetings? When are the teachers having their coaching sessions? Can you co-lead a coaching session to talk about specific practices? Really trying to blend it in so that you're not seen as this opposing force outside that they have to choose over their programming and yours, or their time and yours, right? Also, make sure that you're really speaking their language, right? Honor their values. I put a picture here of some of the values of a classroom that we were working in. And we tend to take some of the school values that they already have, whatever they are, and really try to blend it into our programming as well. So we're making sure that we're really integrating what we're doing with what they're already doing. Also, again, relationships matter, especially in a small city like ours. So become part of their community. Show up to events that are other than your own events. Show up to parent nights. Show up to Thanksgiving. We just had a really fun Thanksgiving, and our staff members also showed up to their holiday party. Black History Month is coming up. It's really huge in schools in New Orleans. We're going to be going to several of their events just to show up, just to be there. And also too, being reliable. School leaders especially have zero time. So the most that you can be reliable with doing what you said you're going to do, and showing up when you said you're going to show up, and having those meetings, regardless of if they're able to join or not, that will really show that you are dedicated to their mission. And so the last thing is thinking about what you bring. what are you offering to schools? What is it that you're bringing? Are you bringing something that they want? So one of the strategies that is always very helpful is to BYOF, bring your own funding. It is very hard to come into a school, tell them about the beautiful, wonderful things that you want to offer, and then ask folks that are very low resourced to now pay for another resource, right? So we tend to bring our own funding. We tend to do things like give stipends to teachers that are coming to meetings, offering to provide meals and stipends for students when we do student programming, parents when we do parent programming. We have a few shared employees. We just got another grant from the Department of Justice where we're going to have 2 embedded employees that are going to be specifically focused on our program needs so that way we're not exhausting the resources of schools that are already under-resourced to try to manage doing another thing. So think about cost sharing models for sustainability too, because again, you're thinking about your exit strategy. So how are you building in your entering strategy? You have your own funding, but over time, how are you thinking about slowly helping them develop the capacity to maintain your programming, maintain for our purposes, this new employee that they might have into the long term. So for example, the first year, through the grant, we're paying 100% of the salary and benefits. The next year, we're paying 66% of the salary and benefits. The next year, we're paying 33% of the salary and benefits. So there's a good off-ramp that also helps them maintain. And these are also conversations that we're having at the beginning to really make sure that they're ready for what we have. And then this is also how we build the relationship and build that buy-in, that we're giving them time and resources to help them figure out their sustainability model. Also think about, again, if your framework is resonating with them, and this goes back to using their language. What is the language that you're using? What is the simplification of your definitions that you're using? Are you using a very higher order definition of trauma that's not tangible to them? Are you providing supports that are not very tangible to them, right? They need things that they can hear, want, and need, right? So really thinking about that. One thing that we also do is co-create our goals. So of course we have our programmatic goals that we have to report to our funding entities, but we also want the schools to be able to see how they are moving the needle on some of their goals. How are you integrating what they have in their strategic, how are you integrating what your programmatic goals might be into their strategic planning? Is there an avenue for that? How are you co-creating goals so that they have some voice and choice in that too? And then you take those goals and you tell a data story. You start the story, the narrative of your time together from day one. And as you catalog that, bring it back to them as you're giving your reporting of what's going on in a way that really does honor what their experiences are. So that's all that I have. I don't know if we're going to do questions now or if we're going to wait until after Kelli is done and then we'll just answer all of the questions. So, but I can stop sharing my screen now. And yeah, that's it. Are we taking questions now or no? Kelli's up. Great.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Allisyn, for collaborating with me on this presentation. We had an interesting conversation, and what everyone needs to know, everyone, and I may not say it, but 15 times a day, there is no toolkit. How Allisyn does things is going to be different from how Kelli does things, and it's going to be different from every parish does. There is not a toolkit for anyone to implement trauma-informed practices. You have to do a lot. You have to have a lot of legwork. You have to partner with reputable organizations. You have to be a reputable organization. But I am Kelli Todd, the Executive Director of Volunteers for Youth Justice. We're a local nonprofit. We've been around for 43 years, and that's important. As Allisyn even said, trust. We've built trust. We've been We run at least 10 different programs dealing with children in the foster care system, the school system, the juvenile justice system, and the community. It's not just one focus we have. So we have built that trust and we've built strong relationships. So it's allowed us to not have as much resistance, but it took a long time. It's not something you can do overnight. So what I want to talk to you about today is building that support and overcoming resistance. So, like I said, we're a volunteer-based, community-supported nonprofit organization. And our mission is to provide a community caring for children, youth, and families in crisis. You got to start at home. That's your first step. Unless your organization is on board to create this environment, and unless everyone is speaking the same language in your organization, it's not going to work. We have about 78 employees right now. And when I told them this in 2018, the ones who had been here like 25 to 30 years, I saw the eye rolling. Like they were set in their ways. They weren't interested in learning something new. But as they went through the classes, everyone is on board now. So it does take a little buy-in, just engaging your staff, because a lot of them, like I said, are setting their ways. But we were lucky that we had that community and that court buy-in already, because that's where the majority of our work was. The school buy-in was a little bit tougher. I mean, we were already in schools doing certain things, but not really trauma-focused work. And so after getting that buy-in, and that's what I want to talk to you about today, is we were able to really establish an entire TBRI program. So how we started it, and I've listed them in the order that we started them, is we started with our caregiver training classes. Here we trained anyone in the community who wanted training. They got free training, free. We just did it for anyone who would call, other nonprofits, teachers, probation officers, anyone who was interested, and tried to get as many people trained as we could. And then we started a TBRI advocate program specifically for courts, for Judge Matlock, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. I'm not sure, Secretary Matlock now. I'm not sure if he's on here, but he could be. How he helped us develop an advocate program where he could appoint TBRI advocates to be assigned to whoever is the caregiver for this child. It may be a foster parent, a relative, and we went into the home and guided them through techniques to allow them to offer solutions for this traumatic behavior. And then we can't forget our parents. A lot of the parents end up getting their children back. And for a long time, we were so focused on the kids that we really forgot about the kid may go home here and they need the same tools we're teaching everyone else. So our TBRI director started a biological parent training where she has trained over 650 biological parents in a 16 session caregiver training class. And it's really been remarkable. And the parents who actually engage in it have learned a lot. And then that's kind of when we started moving into the TBRI and the Caddo schools, which we'll talk about. And then today, what's really a lot of our focus is we have branched out to do TBRI services in the Caddo Correctional Center, where we're working with inmates to give them these same tools that we're giving everyone else in the community. It's been transformative. So as we started, we really didn't start infusing trauma into our organization completely until 2018, when Caddo Juvenile Court Judge Matlock really brought it to us. He came to us with this idea, and I'm going to show you kind of the pathway we took. But one of my favorite quotes that I use a lot with him, because he was able to recognize, I don't know what your journey is. I don't know who the participants are on this training, but it doesn't matter what field of work you're in. I love this quote: whether it's truancy, delinquency, ungovernability, substance abuse, child maltreatment, mental health issues, trauma was the one thread that wove its way through all of this. The understanding of relational trauma was the thread running through so many of the problems we see in society. So I don't know, no matter what your organization does, this is the thread that we have focused on. So what we did, this is kind of our journey. And if anybody wants a copy of our slides, they're welcome to it. In 2016, 2017, Judge David Matlock, who was our child need a care judge at the time, he took a concentrated look at the effects of generational trauma on families in our child welfare system. He then approached VYJ and he called when I say he took a concentrated effort, he called meetings all the time for anybody in the community would come. He didn't leave anyone out. There'd be pediatricians, social workers, teachers, principals. He invited, enough me or yourselves would call that meeting, we may have 3 people show up. But he was able to, because of when Allisyn talked about a champion, he was our champion. He was someone who was respected in the community, who people were going to come to these meetings to see what he had to say. Like I said, if I would have called that meeting, there may have not have been many people show up, but that was our champion. And that's very important to remember. You got to have someone in that community that can reach people and get them to all join this movement. So we sent our first staff member to TBRI practitioner training in 2018, in April of 2018. And after that, it just took off. And I'm not going to read the screen to you, but in June, we started the advocate program. And then it just went from our first training, our first advocates were sworn in. In April of 2019, we opened our first calming studio at the Caddo Juvenile Court. This was another collaboration. This beautiful room allowed our children to not be subjected to that traumatic environment of sitting in the courthouse for 9 hours, waiting on their court case to be called and looking at their offender. It allowed us to instead divert the children away from this and bring a place where they could deregulate and not think about the trauma. And then in 2020 is when we began our caregiver training for bio parents and for fictive kin and child under care cases. In 2021, which I have a special guest here with you that I'm going to introduce in a minute, we launched our first ever trauma-informed school-based resource center. We didn't know what to name it. This is just kind of what we came up with. And then we started our CCC work, our Caddo Correctional Center, in April and November of 2022. And then as we've advanced, we have continued to write grants. As Allisyn noted, bring your own funding. She's not playing. You can't go in there with all this great programming and think they're going to fund it for you. You have to bring your funding, prove yourself, and then you'll be able to secure additional grants to expand your programming. That is key. And then in May of 2023, we held our grand opening for our harbor. If you hadn't heard of it, you can go look at our website. It's all of our programming is housed in one location, along with other nonprofits, along with Caddo Parish School Board. It's a one-stop resource center for anybody in the community to utilize. What I'm going to say to you, no matter what your journey is or what you're working on, the first thing you have to do is you have to evaluate your organizational culture. Because if you're not 100% bought in, and if you're not 100% engaged and ensure that everyone else is, then you're not credible. And it's what I say. And then build those community relationships. Don't leave anyone out. I used to sit back at Judge Matlock's meeting and go, wonder why he invited the bus drivers at Caddo Parish schools. Well, because they need to know it too. They're dealing with the kids. I used to question who he built, and then I realized at the end he was trying to make sure everybody in our community was a part of this. And then you got to empower. You can't. We learned a lot of lessons when we went into the school system. We thought we were going to go in there and help with these children's behavior, but what we learned really quick is we had to quickly shift from helping the children to helping the teachers and giving the teachers these tools, because they didn't know. They were as dysregulated as the students. They have a hard job. I used to be a school teacher. Wouldn't go back to it no matter if you tripled my salary. That is hard work. So what we learned is we do it, and then we show them how to do it, and then we empower them to do it, because you can't stay at a campus forever. Has to be a model of how you train everyone on the campus so that you can go help other people. And when you leave, they should be able to do it. As I already mentioned, a champion is a must. You have to have a champion. It could be an organization, it can be a person, but you've got to have a champion to help you drive this and get all the buy-in. Data is so important. The first year we entered a school campus, we collected data, and it allowed us to the next year write a federal grant to expand this to 3 additional campuses. We didn't know what data to capture, but luckily we had the buy-in from that school and the school board to really help us pull some really good data. And always have it ready. If you're out in the community talking about this, you should be able to quote your data and what a difference you're making. And expect creative solutions to funding. I mean, it's hard, but you've got to go in with your own solutions. And then once you prove yourself, that's when you start getting them to match things and apply for other grants and stay flexible. We change every day. I just changed something yesterday that wasn't working on a school campus. If it's not working, don't keep doing it. Be flexible, be willing to pivot. One thing I've really learned as we've been working in more schools is principals change, administrators change, and when they change, they don't have to implement anything you've brought to their campus. So you've got to stay flexible and be ready to pivot at any moment. Okay, this is what I really want to talk about today. We started our school-based model at university in 2021. I got a call from this crazy principal who called me on the phone, and she's like, I just love all your programming. Can you bring it to my school? And I was like, well, like, you want me to bring 5 programs to your school? Do you have any funding? And she's like, nope. So, I mean, I would get a weekly call about adding, she wanted a task truancy officer. She wanted TBRI facilitation on campus. She wanted a calming studio. She wanted a leadership program, conflict resolution, and a FENS officer on call, because this principal, she was the principal of the largest elementary school in our parish. I think at the time the enrollment was over 1,100 children. So I didn't have money. She didn't have money. Well, we found a grant, and this is that piece about collaborating. We found a local foundation grant that was focused on elementary school age kids. So I call and I tell her, here's a grant. I didn't write it. She didn't write it. We wrote it together. We sat down and collaboratively wrote this grant. We looked at the data. We looked at everything we could to make sure that we turned in a top-notch grant that would get this funding. So we wrote it and we got it. And then we're like, oh no, we've got to implement this. The problem was we got it right before school let out. Like, we were notified like in June or July. And we're like trying to figure out how to get all these teachers and administrators trained to be able to implement this. But we worked it out. But just look at the data from the school year, the first year we were there. Only 15% of her students, and she had, like I said, 1,100, missed 10 or more days. Prior to this, the numbers were at 35%, because we had that one person on campus that worked with parents, worked carpool line, held meetings. We were able to reduce truancy. 155 of her students received direct services, which was usually TBRI implementation or something like that. And then we only had to file 2 petitions that year out of the 124 that just wouldn't go to school. Unfortunately, if they don't go to school, we have to get a little court involvement. But I think the biggest thing was the behavior referrals. In ISS, in school suspension, it went down 75% from 57 to 14. And in out of school suspension, it went down 98% from 35 to 1. Do you think she didn't want us back on her campus after that? I mean, because she was able to share this with other principals, and we were able to share this data. And this is what allowed us, tracking things like this, allowed us to take this information, share it, and then get more and more buy-in. And then we were able to write more and more grants to continue to expand this model. But I think it's important you hear from someone who was a principal, now has a new role, to learn how this has really just skyrocketed since 2021, and how many other schools we've been able to affect. So I've invited Dr. Casey Monero here, and I'm going to get out of the way so she can talk to y'all, and we'll be happy to answer questions.
Hey y'all, I'm trying to get in here. Kelly called me the crazy principal. I'm going to call her the crazy community person. We had such a instant bonding and instant relationship based on the fact that we had the same vision. We could see it. We could see what schools needed. And I was so excited to be a part of this at the ground floor when we first started. Yes, I had been calling her and annoying her and constantly begging. Really, I was begging anyone that I could find to give me the human resources that I felt like we needed to make our school successful. And what was so challenging is, like Kelly said, I had 1,100 students. Most of them, or 600 or so of them below the poverty level. A demographic that was interesting about my school was that we had kids from all over the place, many different countries represented, many different types of cultures represented, but having a kids with a low socioeconomic status, with being over half of our school, was challenging to say the least. And we never felt like we had enough people to address the needs of those kids. The counselor student ratio was about 500 to 1 students to counselors. It still is a huge problem. The national recommendation for counselors is 250 to 1, which I still think is alarming. We have so many kids who need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to have voice, they need to have someone who cares about them, they need to have a champion. And it's so hard to do that when you don't have the people that can just focus in on that. And so that was one of my main points when we brought all this on. I said, can you please get me a task officer? Can you please get me a TBRI practitioner? Can you please get me someone who can work with a leadership team? These were the things that my staff, we don't have people assigned to those types of roles on a regular school staff, but we should. But what happens is, once you get it assigned to a regular, like let's say that the Caddo Parish School Board said, here, you can have these 5 people and they'll be Caddo Parish School employees. Well, what happens to those people is they end up, okay, now they have duty. Now they have testing that they have to deal with. Now they have meetings that they have to go to. All of these things takes away from the fact that they could focus their attention on students. And so the really great thing that I learned very quickly about volunteers and about community organizations and people that were outside the school system is that when they came in to help me at the school level, they could actually help the teachers and the kids, and they could actually do the things they needed to do. They could actually focus on the kids. And so that was just the coolest part of it. The way that I get, and I'll just tell you a little bit about buy-in, because I know that's something that is hard. You know, a lot of schools, and especially since COVID, have their doors locked to outside people coming into them, and they're always looking at it as somebody's trying to sell me something. Somebody's trying to come in with a program. We already have 15 programs. We can't, have another program. But the way I was bought in was that human resources factor. It was, you can actually help me get more people to help our kids. The way that I get other principals to buy into it also is with the data. We saw what it can do. We know what it can do. We watched it firsthand. We were on the ground floor of seeing it in action. We had, and Kelly's already gone over this, but we had, increased attendance at a time when people were not coming to school. We had better attendance than most of the parish. One of the highest attendance rates in the parish. Our SPS increased, that's our school performance score. So there's where you really can get principals, is it did affect our learning. It did affect how the kids did on their academics. We had referrals that decreased. Once we got the mindset shift to happen, once people understood trauma-informed education and what trauma was about, we had teachers who were recognizing their own trauma, recognizing what they had been through, and then they started changing in the way that they reacted to the kids' problems and the kids' trauma. And so we stopped seeing the power struggle as much with kids and kids and teachers, and we stopped seeing the teachers writing up so many referrals. And that was really twofold. One was their mentality changed about it because they were more reflective and they were, understanding trauma better, but also they did have someone that was helping them through that process of, this kid is dysregulated. I'm trying to teach my lesson. Can you please go for a walk with him for a minute? So that helped our teachers have that moment of, I can take a breath, and then I can come back and talk to this child. Once they're calmed down, I'm calmed down, everyone's more calm, and we can get somewhere with it. We saw 100% teacher retention in 2021, right after COVID. I don't think there's a school on this earth that can boast that, but us, we had every single teacher at our school stayed at our school the next year. And I had a lineup, and I'm not even kidding, like piles of resumes on my desk that people that wanted to come work at our school. And it was because of the culture we had built and the support we had given to our teachers. And then the word of mouth of those teachers telling other teachers in other places, this is where you want to be, a place that actually is supporting you and your emotional needs and your feelings and listening to you and hearing you. It was a big deal. That 100% teacher retention rate and our Upbeat survey, which is a survey that we give teachers to see how they're feeling about their work environment and all that kind of stuff. Ours was very, very high. And so to me, that just speaks to the culture and the climate of the school. And that was all about, what happened here. We also had parent complaints that decreased, and we had increased parent involvement. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Okay. Sorry, y'all. And so to just really summarize everything really quickly, once we did this, once Judge Matlock got on board and helped us with this, and VYJ, and we had them as partners, we saw the great things that happened from it. And then I was able to move into a role in the district called student well-being, which is how we are getting it out into other schools now. And we were able to implement our project, and it is nowhere near perfect. We are still learning and we're still growing, but we have been able to get it into other schools. We have trained so many people. We have trained so much of the Caddo Parish School staff. We've trained bus drivers. We've trained cafeteria workers. We've trained ISS facilitators. We've trained security guards in trauma-informed education. We've just trained everybody we could train so that we're all speaking the same language. We're all on the same page. And since implementation, so I'd say Caddo in the last 3 years, our overall SPS has gone up as a parish. We're almost a B parish, which is a huge improvement. Our overall VAD data decreased, which is our violent, aggressive, and disruptive behaviors across the parish that's decreased. That is huge at a time when it's increasing in a lot of places. And then our overall suspensions, expulsions have decreased. And at our TBRI schools, the schools that we're talking about that we really have a more of a concerted effort, where we do have that just the whole team of people there. We see that VAD data going down, we see the SPS going up, and those suspensions and expulsions decreasing, and that teacher retention increasing. So those are the things that principals want to see and want to hear, and those things are happening on these campuses. So it's very exciting, and we're glad to see it continue on forward. So nice to meet y'all.
Thank you. We're gonna go ahead and start fielding some questions. We have a couple minutes left on today's webinar. So if you guys have any questions for Kelli and her guest, or for Dr. Allisyn Swift, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A box. And yeah, we'll start taking some questions. We also opened the chat, so if you also have any comments or anything that you would like to say to our presenters, you can go ahead and put it in the chat or the Q&A box. So I see that we have some questions in the chat, and so I have one that I think this is for you, Kelli, that asks, has it only been done in... Right. Awesome, thanks. We have another question that says, my organization's leadership is opposed to implementing trauma-informed practices, but I have a small group of colleagues who are in support of it. What are ways that my small group of colleagues and I can implement trauma-informed practices without going against leadership? And either Ms. Kelli or Dr. Swift, if you guys can answer this.
Well, I think that, again, that data story is so important. And I mean, like, if you share the slide decks after, you'll see the compelling data that, Kelli's organization just produced. And again, this is what school leaders want, right? And also, too, just being able to really connect what we're doing with academic success. We know that kids learn better when they are not stressed out. We know that there is more teacher retention when they are not stressed out, right? So when we're talking about trauma-informed care systemically, it's going to be able to give a lot of rewards that teachers do want. And I would also just be curious to what the leaders' issues are with trauma-informed care. Maybe they have had some really bad experiences with training. We don't know what it could be. They could be afraid that we'll be talking about trauma and opening up Pandora's box. Like, they may have some really odd misconceptions about what trauma-informed care are. So I would say to actually get to know what some of the barriers are, so that way you can find a good data story to really compel them to maybe think differently. And there's nothing that could stop you from having your own little, teacher leadership group where you are all discussing trauma-informed care. And trauma-informed care in classrooms is just good pedagogy. So you can always do that in your own classrooms too. But if you're trying to think systemically, those are some of the things that I would think about, really leaning into what the barriers are and finding a data story that can actually tell a better story.
And Kelly, do you have anything to add to that?
That was a really good point. I'd love to know what organization is it a school? Is it a court? Is it a community? I'd need a little bit more information, because depending on that, I think I could give some better advice. If it's a school, we can have our school administrators, we can present data from our schools and have our school administrators reach out. If it's a court, we all know who we can have to reach out. And if it's a community organization, then we can have some of our community organizations reach out and explain that once they embedded this in their organization, how everything changed. So I'd need a little bit more information to give a quality answer.
And I'll just say, if it is a school, one of the things that we do is tour, like go to the school and see what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so some administrators or teachers or, someone that might be hesitant to implement it, when they see it in action, you can really feel the difference, immediately upon walking in the school. I think when they see it, they'll understand it better. They'll see that it's not taking away from instructional time, that it's actually adding to instructional time, because when you take 30 seconds of prevention on the front end, you are saving yourself hours and hours of paperwork on the back end. And so starting to show them what that looks like sometimes helps those non-believers.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your responses. Are there any other questions? We have about 2 minutes left for today's webinar. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask our amazing presenters, please go ahead and do so and drop it in the chat or in the Q&A box. While we're still waiting for a couple questions to come in, I want to remind everyone about the survey that will be sent out at the end of today's webinar. You'll get an email asking to complete a survey. If you're signing up for our CEU credits, please be sure to take that survey so you can receive your credits. And even if you're not receiving credits, we would highly appreciate it if you would take our survey. It will help us improve our webinars in the future. Okay, so see that we have some more questions in the chat. Ella asked, are any of you plugged in with the Lafayette Parish School District or our juvenile court system?
Yes, definitely collaborate a lot with your juvenile court system. And also Casey and I actually have a meeting scheduled with somebody from Lafayette Schools next week. They want to come learn what we're doing here. So Casey's been working on that, but we have very strong partnerships just because of all the programs we run at Volunteers for Youth Justice with the courts down there, the community. We recently took over the Family Resource Center here in Caddo Parish, so we're meeting with them as well and doing collaboration work with them as well. But yes, absolutely. And keep that in mind too. I'm not here to hoard any information or ideas. Anyone on this call can call me. I'll share anything, probably too much, but there's no reason for anyone to reinvent the wheel. I'll share anything you need.
Same.
Yeah, same. Yes, please contact us. I do know that our dissemination coordinator did actually just have a meeting with someone in the Lafayette School District on Wednesday to talk about our programming and trauma-informed practices. And yes, Kelly is absolutely right. Like, we're not here to hoard any information. We all need, I mean, this is a state initiative. Whole Health Louisiana is a state initiative, and we are here to collaborate. So please, yeah. Yep, I could definitely put my email in.
Thank you guys. I want to note to everyone that it's 1:01, and so that concludes our webinar. But we do have two other questions. If Dr. Swift and Kelly, if you guys are okay with staying a little bit to answer their last two questions.
Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you. And everyone else, you are more than welcome to leave if you have other things to attend to, but you feel free to stay on for our last two questions. One person asked, did you guys take a grant writing course? And Allisyn, is this how you guys gain some of your funding that you take into the school systems regarding the grants?
So as we are part of a university partnership, as you know, professors are really good at getting grants because a lot of them get grants to really uphold their positions and run lots of programming. So we are lucky enough to have our senior advisor that is a wonderful fundraiser when it comes to writing these federal grants, and our other co-PI. I don't know if they're on this call, but if you are, hi, Dr. Overstreet, and hi, Dr. Baker. And they are really, really good with supporting that. And I've also done grant writing in my past too. But yes, that is how we are supporting all of this. It's 100% grant funded.
Right. So same here. We don't have the Tulane grant writers that Allisyn has. So I write all of the grants as for like local foundations, community-based, and contracts like that. But when we first decided to apply for this federal grant, I contracted with a local federal grant writer who was very familiar with our organization. Had actually served on our board, so she knew a lot about it, because they have to know a lot about your organization to be able to write a grant and talk about your programming. So for the bigger ones, I now contract with a federal grant writer, but for the smaller ones, I mean, we write them ourselves. We have staff members and myself that write them.
Okay, thank you. And then our last question is, are there any nonprofits or licensing boards that one can reach out to about receiving support for building trauma-informed practices?
Support, do you mean financial support or or like advice? What do you?
I'm not sure if this person is still on here or if they want to clarify, but we can talk about any type
Okay,
of
so
general support.
Yeah, support. They can reach out to any three of us that we can support them and help and guide them along this path. If it's that kind of support, if it's financial support, there is no place you just go and get. I mean, it's based on where they're at and whose their funding streams are in their parish. But as far as any kind of support with helping for advice, all three of us, Allisyn, myself, and Casey, they can call us at any time. We'll give them whatever they need.
Yeah, if they're talking about financial support, if you're thinking about going into government grants, as I said, like we've got awards from SAMHSA and the Department of Justice. And so also look at the Department of Education. I just went to a conference where we had some folks from the Department of Education talking about some funding opportunities that they have. So I would look at some of those government entities and websites. If you're talking about private philanthropy, relationships, you can call some of these organizations and see if, and write them a beautiful letter and see if they're interested in knowing more about your program and developing a relationship. But I would just start to do some searches for what is in your area. A lot of times people want to fund things that are happening in specific areas and in specific entities like schools or community work directly with parents and students. So you would just have to do some digging in terms of like, what are some of the philanthropy opportunities that are out there that are really supporting the kind of work that you're trying to do in the communities and the population that you're trying to reach in your communities. I think that there might be some stuff. I know that there was something out there, like if you're supporting incarcerated families and incarcerated, so it's like, it could be very sector specific. So depending on what your work is, there is probably a funding stream that is looking to fund some work like that. So it's just the job of doing the digging and finding out who they are.
Oh, awesome. Thank you guys so much. I hope to whoever posted that question that answered your questions. And that is the last question that we have for today. I want to thank you both and our interpreter as well for coming to today's webinar. For all the attendees who are still here, don't forget to fill out that survey. And Allisyn and Miss Kelly's emails are also in the chat for anyone who would like to reach out to them for questions. And that is it for today's webinar. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.